Venezuelan opposition leader María Corina Machado has won the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee recognized Machado's, quote, tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. She is now living in hiding after last year's election that the country's longtime president is accused of stealing. This is the moment she got the call.
I have no words. I'm honored, humbled. I am very grateful on behalf of the Venezuelan people. We're not there yet. We're working very hard to achieve it, but I'm sure that we will prevail.
For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano, who's joining me from the Dominican Republic. Lilia, you've spent time with Machado. You have gotten to know her. You've covered Venezuela. You know what it means to her and for the fact that she's hiding now because of the fear that she has. What does this mean to her and to the people that love and respect her?
I mean, what this means to the people of Venezuela is hard to put in words, Vlad. I insisted so much to go cover this election because I have been following the real demise of that country, of that democracy over the last decades. And when we got to Venezuela, when we were on the ground, you could feel this energy. People came out in historic numbers. And by every measure of all of the international institutions, including the Carter Center, the United Nations, it was Edmundo González Urrutia who won that election. It wasn't María Corina Machado because the government, the regime of Nicolás Maduro banned her from running. We covered that as well. She was banned. She could not run. The courts had decided that. She had won more than 90% of the intention of the vote the year before in a poll that was done by the opposition. And sure enough, on the night that after the election, the day after the election, after the votes were counted, and weeks later, the opposition presented all the evidence that it was Edmundo who won, the government of Nicolás Maduro declared victory. And to this day, we're waiting for that evidence. But I want to show a bit of a clip of what María Corina Machado told us that night after Maduro claimed victory without showing evidence once again.
It's a grotesque violation of the popular will, and everybody knows it. The regime knows it, the international community knows it, and the people of Venezuela knows it. And we will defend the truth.
I asked her team today, of course, I'm hoping that we talk to her, but I asked, what's going to happen? Is she going to be able to come and get the prize? We know she remains in hiding. This government has continued to persecute her and all of her supporters. They told me no prize is going to make her leave Venezuela. The equivalent for all of the previous opposition leaders who have left is, to kind of leave their people behind. And what she's saying today in the message to accept this prize is we are at the threshold. And she mentions President Trump twice. She thanks President Trump, I guess implicitly, for the pressure campaign. Under the banner of a counter-narcotics operation, we have seen strikes against multiple vessels coming out of Venezuela. And it's not anti-narcotics because, and this is the reason why the government of Nicolás Maduro is considered a narco state. The United States is saying and has evidence to prove that they function essentially as a cartel and have been persecuting Maduro for many years. There's millions of dollars of bounty on his or information leading to his capture. But what is important here is what's underlying, which is a pressure campaign towards democracy. And that's why she is dedicating the prize to the people of Venezuela, but also to President Trump, who some might think was being snubbed by this Nobel Peace Prize. She mentions him twice today and asks for his continued support in getting her country towards a democratic path.
An incredible moment. Lilia, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on what it's been like to cover all of the politics in Venezuela, but also the newest recipient of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. Thank you, Lilia.
The U.S. is reinstating some previously lifted sanctions on Venezuela after the country's highest court blocked the candidacy of a presidential candidate. The U.S. Treasury Department will no longer authorize sanctions with Venezuela's state-owned gold mining company beginning on February 13th. The U.S. will also end sanction relief for Venezuela's oil and gas sectors on April 18th. That is, unless all presidential candidates are allowed to run for office. Last week, Venezuela's top court upheld a 15-year ban on opposition leader María Corina Machado holding public office. President Nicolás Maduro's government announced this ban in June, days after she officially declared her presidential candidacy. In spite of this, Machado has vowed to remain in the race. And María Corina Machado joins us now. María Corina, thank you so much for being here with us. You have pledged to remain in the race following this court ruling. How do you see this ultimately playing out for you and for Venezuela?
Well, thank you very much. This is certainly a very challenging route and moment. Maduro knows that if he faces me in the presidential election, he will lose. I got a mandate of almost 3 million people who participated in the primaries last October. I received over 90% of the votes, and I committed to make to lead this process to free and fair elections. And you cannot talk about free and fair elections if the candidate chosen by the people is not allowed to run. We know this is not a political decision and not a judicial decision. It is a political decision, a criminal decision, because it goes against not only our constitution, but the Barbados Agreement, which the Maduro regime signed last October. And he committed to allow that all those that are political candidates can participate and create the conditions for free and fair elections. The other parts of the agreement, including the U.S., has complied with what they had committed to do, but the regime once again is violating their words.
So the Maduro administration is not keeping their word on a series of issues, of promises made despite a prisoner exchange. One of the issues that our audience here thinks about when they think about conditions and the situation of Venezuela is that the United States is facing a record number of migrants reaching the border. You have warned that the absence of free elections in Venezuela could exacerbate that. Can you walk us through how?
That's a very important point. You have to understand that Venezuelans are fleeing our country because the conditions of life here are desperate. I mean, the salary, the minimum salary is $1 a month. Pensions are less than $4 a month. Women are leaving their kids back home because they need to get something for their children to survive. And of course, there is all the political persecution that is growing and growing. When a society doesn't see a future in their nation, they are forced to flee. The only way we can stop migration and even further bring those Venezuelans back home where we need them and want them is to give them future in Venezuela. Nicolás Maduro is everything but that. I mean, they have destroyed the country, misery is huge, and certainly are more than 80% of our population is striving for political change. We have a real opportunity with free and fair elections. It's not going to be an easy process, and we certainly need the commitment of all democratic voices around the world to come with us, create more and more citizen strength and organization, because this regime is weaker than ever, believe me.
And one of the things that just happened is that Venezuela has announced, despite in one of those terms where it's walking back what it had promised to the United States, it's saying it's no longer taking deportees that it had agreed to take from the United States. So on that issue of immigration, what can or what would you see that the international community, and specifically the United States, can do to support and uphold democracy, a democratic process in Venezuela between now and an election that still has no date on the books?
We need to engage more and more allies. We have to show everyone that it is in the best interest of every single country in this hemisphere, even those governments that are closer to Maduro for ideological reasons or whatever. Because, as you say, migration, instability, drug trafficking are issues that are hurting the whole region. And at the end, I even think that Maduro will end up accepting that his best option is a negotiation directly with me, in which we can agree on guarantees for an orderly and pacific transition for Venezuela. It is going to be rough the days to come because this regime has done everything to stay in power.
I mean,
But
including
Yes, sure.
imprisoning people like Leopoldo Lopez. I mean, Juan Guaido is no longer in the country. Would you support somebody else if the situation gets to a point where you can no longer be the candidate? Is that a possibility?
But the problem is it's not about me. It's about all the 3 million people who participated in a primary and decided and chose who they want to be their candidate. At the end, it has to do with the will of the people. So is Nicolás Maduro going to be the one who chooses who's the candidate that runs against him? By banning the candidate that people chose, that is unacceptable. And that is something the Venezuelan people certainly did not elected me for. We are going to fight until the end. We're going to increase more and more strength, citizen strength, civic strength, international alliances of all sectors to make Maduro understand finally that it is in his best interest to move along into a transition, that we have to keep our words in the negotiation table, and that we will be able to have an election that everybody supports and that it's legitimate so that we can bring Venezuelans that have left back home willingly, not force them to come back, but willingly. And we will turn Venezuela into the energy hub of the Americas. That's going to be our true contribution to the global energy. That is not crisis, that it's not possible under Maduro's regime.
Wow. You sound very hopeful that that's still a possibility. A long road ahead in this process for yourself and for the people of Venezuela. María Corina Machado, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.